What's up, everybody? It's your girl, Kiwana. I am back with The Real Housewives of Atlanta, Season 16, Episode 5, About Last Night, Child. Let's just get this started. So the next day, we get to Shamia's house, and Angela is there, and I'm so glad that those two are good. I'm good, okay? And Britt shows up and she says she acted a fool last night, and I just want Britt to know that, ma'am, yes, you did. And she was saying she couldn't sleep, and I just kind of feel like your ass couldn't sleep because you knew you was wrong, point blank in the period. I don't know who put the battery in your back, but whomever put the battery in your back, you allowed whatever you have festering, this unresolved thing with Kenya. I don't know. You let it fester and it turned into something. So Angela said she couldn't sleep last night because of the backlash she got from the owner of the venue. And I was like, okay. Shamia tells Britt that she was going on, and Kenya did cut Britt off. And I was like, I'm where, when? But even if she did that, they still don't justify the comments that you made. The comments that you made were rude and they were very crass, and it shouldn't have never happened. You know, I don't even understand how you get that angry. Like, that's my whole thing. How do you go from here to here, and now all of a sudden you feel bad? And it's like, it's because it shouldn't have happened. It shouldn't have happened. You let these people put a battery in your back to go after this lady. And it's like, now, you're mad because she don't see it for you. So, Shamia and Angela, okay, so if we gonna place blame, some blame, we're about to place some of this on Miss Angela, because you were the one who wrote down the question. And I said this. I knew this game was gonna get messy when they started doing it, and I was like, yeah. So it was you who had who had this train rolling. You asked the question to Kenya, knowing that Britt was upset with Kenya for whatever reason that made no sense, but she was still upset with her. So she said, she admitted that was her question, and Shamia asked Angela if she felt like Kenya was weird with Britt. And I was like, what does that even mean? What does that mean to be weird with someone? She came in, she spoke, she hugged, they sat down, everybody talked, and all these questions came. So Angela said she was taking Britt's side because Britt felt the way. Well, if Britt felt the way about Kenya, Britt should have taken Kenya to the side and had a conversation with her. You coming up with these questions was you and your nose being messy. And that was messy. Okay? That was very, very messy. So you was the one who got this started and got this train going. It was you. I don't care what nobody said. I'm placing some of this responsibility on you. Okay? So Britt, she said she felt provoked. How? I think that's what we're trying to find out. Did we miss something via production? Did she become Kenya? Twirl? I don't know. Because the Kenya we know would have ate you up and gave you a reason. But she didn't even give you a reason. Did it? And she said, well, I would never harm Kenya. Well, we don't know that. We don't know that. Based on your stance and how you felt last night, and you was so sure that this what you was going to do, or you could do it. But when you threaten somebody like that, I'm gonna have to take that serious, and she had to take that serious. I think any human person will want to take that type of stuff seriously, those type of threats and those comments. Girl, you did the most. Like, you did the most with very little. I'm sorry. This not making sense to me. You keep trying to, in this whole episode, you kept trying to justify your actions. You was wrong. Say that. But don't try to, you can say you're wrong, but you kept saying you're wrong plus. No, that's not how this goes. So if you have to say, she was talking about how good of a person she is. And if you have to say how good of a person you are not. And I would like to call Cap on Brit, because I don't think you are a good person. I think that you are who you are, very shallow, very, you know, non-aware. I think that's just who you are. I think you were a ditz. I think, and this is not me being hard. This is just what she represents to me. I think you like to stunt. I think you don't have everything you say you have, because you try to make yourself that girl, and it's not really giving that. It's giving insecure. You know, that's just my personal opinion based on what I've seen in all of these episodes, okay? I'm not saying you're a bad person. I'm just saying you don't display qualities of a good person. So, Shamia asked Angela if she talked to Charles. She was like, no, I didn't talk to Charles about Portia's comment. So, we're at Kenya's hair spy, you know, and she's still preparing and getting ready. So Portia and Kelly, aka Lil Kim, stopped by, and I love Kenya's models. Okay, they were very cute. They were pretty. They were just giving. It was, you know. And then they sent a flashback because Portia was like, no, one. I think it was no. It was Cynthia. We'll get there. Anyway, Kenya said it was nothing she said that warranted this type of behavior, and I agree. All she said was a peasant can't come for a queen. But you kept asking for it and asking for it, and you thought that she wasn't going, you know, you just wanted her to respond so badly. And she did. And that was light. That was light. So Kelly think that they should talk because she don't think Britt is like that. And Kenya's like, listen, you keep saying that. I don't know her like that. I only go by what she's giving. And you keep trying to say what she's not. And so Kelly was like, well, she hasn't done it to me. And Kenya was like, well, say that then. But don't say this is not what she is. If this is who this is what she's displaying, who she is. Okay? So Kelly says she needs to focus on her employees in a salon. And it's like, and you need to stay out of this. So Kenya said, I'm going to run a background check on her. And so, you know, Kenya twirls out. We already know this finna be a show. So Angela, a.k.a. Latoya, and her daughter are at the coffee shop. And her daughter, we found out that her daughter's father was unalive, I want to say, when Amara was 7. And she asked her mom, she was like, well, Mom, I thought grandma was supposed to be here. Why didn't she show up? So apparently her daughter went over to her grandmother's house to borrow the car. I mean, it sounds like the daughter lives with the grandmother. I got some questions. And so the sister must live there too. Well, of course, Angela and her sister isn't getting along. And so the sister gets angry and calls Amara a demon. And meanwhile, Angela says she didn't know that all of this happened like that. She said she should have called her. And I'm just trying to figure out, why don't your daughter have her own car? And why your daughter don't live with you? Something ain't right. Something ain't clean in the milk why your daughter don't live with you and your husband. But I'm pretty sure it's something that have to do with your husband. Anyway, Angela said her mom was diagnosed with bipolar disorder and she's self-proclaimed healed. I don't know what that means, but if that meant she healed herself, I don't know. Maybe she went to therapy and they undiagnosed her. I don't know. So Amara asked Angela, why do you still financially take care of them? And she was like, because that's my mom. And I'm just like, y'all gonna stop with, because this is family. I feel like I have to do this. You don't have to do this because they're your family. Each person is responsible for their own self unless they are incapacitated and they need care. Unless they are, mentally unstable to the point where there are things that they cannot do. Physically unstable. I'm sorry. Like, just because you're family doesn't mean you have to take care of everybody. And I meant that. I mean that from the bottom of my soul. Especially if they're taking from you and they're draining you and they're not even trying because they know you're going to pick up that slack. Let me mind my business because that's not my family. Anyway, so this is my question. My question was, I'm confused because she lives with your mom. And why didn't you know that your daughter was married for 4 months? So apparently Amara got married. She had been married for 4 months before what's her name? Before Angela found out. And I'm just like, well, cause hold up. Wait, cause hold up. Cause even as they sat down and talked, it felt disingenuous. I felt a disconnect. And I could be wrong, but there is some strain in her relationship. The relationship with her sister, with Angela and her daughter, with Angela and her sister, and was Angela and her mom. I'm just saying, it seems like the common denominator at this point is you and that husband of yours and your family. Like something, like I'm going to put all responsibility on everybody. But Angela gives me, I don't know how to establish boundaries with my family, with my husband, and with my daughter, or even with myself. I'm just saying. So in the next scene, Portia and Britt, they sit down. Britt tries to explain herself, but to me, she's not making sense. So some part of me really checked out on it, y'all. I'm sorry. Portia said in her confessional, the Kenya that Britt is wanting, that Kenya don't exist. She's somewhere, but she's not existing now. She don't give a damn. This the Kenya y'all get. The Kenya y'all get do not care. So LaToya talks to Charles. Sorry, y'all. I'm going to stop calling her LaToya. Angela talks to Charles. Okay, Charles, your lunch is ready. So Charles says to Angela, a.k.a. LaToya, you should have nipped that in the bud when Portia has something to say about me. Don't come ask me. Check it right then and there. I don't want to hear nothing. Please, okay? So Charles is just probably one of those men who just... there is a certain type of man. And they tend to get on my nerves because they're very abrasive and they're extremely rude and dickheads. Sorry about that. I promise y'all, I'm telling y'all I'm going to be less colorful. But I just had to say that because I just had to say that. They just don't care what they say. They feel like I pay my dues. I can say what I want and to whom I can say what I want to and how I want to say it. I don't have to have a push pause button on me. But in fact, you do. Okay? So, Kenya's hair spa event, y'all. Let's talk about this event. All right. So everybody starts to arrive at the event. Cynthia arrives. She's like, I'm very proud of her. I watched her build it from the ground up. Then they go back to that scene where Kenya came to her modeling event and she was like, and Kenya got into it with one of the people and she was like, coochie crack, coochie crack, coochie crack. Sorry. That was my part. Like, I'll never forget that. And so, she just was giving Kenya her flowers. And so Portia started to give Kenya her flowers. She was like, she had a lot of great things to say about Kenya, but I just want to point out that you didn't have a lot of great things to say about your best friend when she when she let everybody listen to her music. But I'm gonna leave that there. Okay. Okay, Miss Lawrence showed up. Miss Mora. Y'all remember when Kenya first came on and her and Miss Lawrence met up, and that was her first introduction. And I think it was like episode 3, 2, 3, 4 or something. I don't know. And they showed her little boom, boom. You know how they come on and they used to do like their introduction pose with all these pictures and all of these different, just the different things. And he was like, Miss Mora. Listen, I would never forget that. Okay. I just love to see them together. He gives Kenya her flowers. They go upstairs and talk. He gives Kenya her flowers. And I was just here for it because there is this energy that they have in his growth. And it was just good to see those two, you know. So Britt get in her confessional and she says she want to make this right because you were wrong. And I think you woke up Kenya, okay? So her models start to come in. We get everything started. Her models came in. The hair, like she did the Bonner Brothers show. Like it was like she paid homage to the Bonner Brothers. And it was like 4 models and all of their hair was beautiful. The design, it was just, and everybody was all in that purple, that royalty purple. So I wasn't mad at that. It was beautiful. And so it was a lady who had the big hair, looked like a spray bottle or something in the middle. I was here for it. And she looked like she was dressed like somebody off of Bridgerton. It almost kind of gave me the queen off of Bridgerton. Like, if y'all watch it, she kind of gave me Queen Charlotte. Anyway, Drew comes in. She tries to hug Portia. Portia still being a dumbass. I'm honestly, y'all, I'm really just over this. Drew tries to talk to her. At this point, girl, it is what it is. Let her be mad. If she want to come and talk, don't talk to her. But like Drew said, baby, I'm not trying to be phony around you. I'm not trying to be none of that. I'm just trying to fix it. And apparently, Portia just want to carry this on throughout the whole season. I know everybody may not like Drew. I like Drew. But what I'm saying is we can still be cordial. You don't have to like me. It's already happening. Me and Dennis already on screen. I don't want your baby daddy. You want your baby daddy. And that is okay. But that has nothing to do with me because all I'm trying to do is make my coin. Because I'm getting a divorce just like you. And you're not finna stop my bag. And Portia pisses me off. Like, Portia was making sense a lot of times in this episode. But with Drew, you're pissing me off. Like, it don't make no sense. This behavior is childish. This behavior is stupid. Lord. So, Britt and Kelly, they're on their way to the event, and Britt said her aunt passed this week, and it's like, girl, I'm really sorry. And she was like, this is happening, and it's like, you put yourself in this situation. But with your aunt, we're sorry to hear that, but at the same time, you put yourself in this situation as it relates to Kenya. So Angela was the one who reached out to Kenya after the event because Kenya pulled her to the side and was like, you're the only one who reached out to me after the event. And it's like, she didn't have a choice because her ass started this whole thing. You should have reached out to her and you should have checked on her. So Angela tells Kenya that she's on her side. And I was like, wait, hold up. Because didn't you tell Britt you were on her side when y'all were at Shamia's house? Like, I need you to make that make sense to me, okay? I just feel like Miss Angela is starting to ride the fence. Maybe I'm wrong, and maybe I misread it. I misinterpret something. Please let me know. So, Portia says that Kenya, let me say this. Portia knows Kenya really, really well. Portia and Cynthia, they know Kenya really, really well. And Portia said Kenya was offended. And she said Kenya may possibly retaliate. Now, I don't know if Portia did not know that, but it sounds like Portia did not know that, but she knows Kenya. So Britt and Kelly makes it to the event. And the ladies are telling Kelly If Kenya wanted you gone, you would have been escorted. She would have put you out, or you wouldn't have just got in. She would have told him at the door not to let you in. We already know how Kenya operate. But Kenya wanted her there. She wanted her there. Like, I'm not gonna put you out. They may think I'm about to put you out, but I'm not about to put you out. I'm just gonna put you on blast. So I talked about Portia and Drew. You still trying to create a problem where there is none because you're trying to keep this stupid ass storyline going. This lady got her own storyline over here. Yours is in jail. Okay, girl. So Britt speaks to Kenya. And when I tell y'all Kenya did what Kenya do, she paid her dust. So Kenya wasn't trying to hear that. Kenya paid her dust. And Kenya start to go ahead and get her speech going. She said, y'all people tried to bring me down. And she said, I'm tired. And she's telling everyone, this woman came here looking for a moment. And Kenya said, I've been that, still that bitch. And something about will always be that. And Kenya blew a kiss. And I was like, okay. So then she tells them, take those flowers. This is the woman brought me the flowers. At this time, Britt had already left out. She's outside at the she's outside standing by the Sprinter van. And she was like, take those flowers. So Kelly was like, okay, can we just keep the card? And Kenya was like, you can burn it and you can stay out of this. Y'all know how Kenya gets. She go off on everybody. So if you think you finna say something, you gotta catch a stray. Okay? So everybody, people was catching strays. So she tells them that Britt talked about having a gun, when she was like, I have pistols and this and that. So she put up a poster, and the first poster said, who is that hoe? It was a whole bunch of pictures of Britney. Old pictures. She was like, this was before her nose. I was like, and she said, I hired a private investigator, and she said, not only that, she was a video trap hoe. I'm sorry. So Kelly said, why are we discussing Britt? Kelly leaves. She was like, I don't feel comfortable. I don't like how Kenya is talking about her friend. And she should be focused on this grand opening. So Kenya pulls out another photo of Britt. So Portia looking at Kenya extremely disappointed. Like, you can look at the disappointment and everybody's face was like, wow. And Cynthia was like, Cynthia said, they didn't point to her, but you can hear her say, ain't nobody trying to see this girl sucking peen. This is crazy. Cynthia's pissed at the moment. She's pissed because she felt like it could have been, you could have done something else or nothing at all. So Drew asked in her confessional, Kenya, where did you get these pictures from? Why are we seeing this? Why is it blown up? So Shamia said it is different to have to say, you have a receipt and to actually show the receipt. So Shamia tells Kenya that's too far. Kenya says, no, that's not too far. She threatened me. And she just went off. Like, Portia left and she said she didn't support this. And so Kenya was like, for the people that's going to support me are here. And for the people that's not going to support me, I see what it is. Like, Kenya really took offense to what happened. And again, in the words of Funky Dineva, you can't do something to somebody and tell them how mad they supposed to be. Should she have done it? Probably not. Shamia said this is too much. Angela said what Kenya did was distasteful and she sympathized with Britt. Portia said this is Kenya's big day and she shouldn't have ruined it by making it about Britt. Cynthia was pissed off. She was like, I love you, friend, but I'm leaving. Production shows the little thing where Kenya was asked not to film. And I was just wondering, how did all of a sudden Britt became the victim? And I did wanted to know, was Kenya wrong or was she justified in what she did? Now, I'm going to say this. She was wrong. Like, I feel like she shouldn't have done it. And only because it, like everybody said, it's taken away from her event, and it took the spotlight off of her, and it got her kicked off the show. But I didn't think she was going to. I mean, I've known Kenya to do a lot of things, but this I wouldn't have. I think the other picture was probably okay. I think it was the sucking, the picture of her, that porn pic. I think that wasn't okay. And I hope that in the spirit of her business, I hope that it did not, you know, decrease her business sales, or people coming into the business. That wasn't a good look. And I'm gonna say this, because she's an OG, it really wasn't a good look, because it looks as if you made that new girl come in and you lost who you were becoming. It doesn't make her a bad person. I don't look at her as the Kenya before. I will say this: the Kenya before has resurfaced in that moment, because that was all I saw. But at the same time, Britt or whatever was dead as wrong. And Angela, I'm not gonna not take the responsibility and push it where it go. This was a response. It just wasn't a good response because of the aftermath, because of the consequence Kenya had to face. That's what made it bad. That's what made it bad. But if we're going to always start, we got to start from the beginning. She probably was wrong for showing that. Like, you shouldn't have done that, because if somebody would have done that to her, she really would have felt the way. But at the same time, let's start from the beginning. Kenya responded. They didn't like how she responded. And I find it funny that y'all still have Britt Edie on here, but y'all got rid of Kenya. It makes me think y'all been wanting to get rid of Kenya for money's sake, for production, because y'all always had it out for her. I'm just saying. I just kind of feel like we've seen worse. We've watched this lady get dragged. But, again, her dragging was because of that was a response of what she's done. And this is something else. This is her responding to what someone said to her. You cannot say, I have pistols, and when I come to you, production, y'all don't protect me once again. So how do you want me to act? It just felt like her back was against the wall. I'm not making an excuse. But this is what people do. She respond in a negative way. And I also feel like y'all didn't do nothing because y'all wanted to see how this lady was going to respond. I think this was all purposefully done. And I'm ashamed of production. I'm not surprised, but I'm ashamed of production, because both women should have been removed. It shouldn't have been a conversation, because I felt like that conversation, I felt like production went to Portia for her to step in and have a conversation with Edie. It almost felt like what Melody does with the women when they do something they ain't supposed to be doing, and Melody have to put on this EP hat. And that's what I felt like what was happening in the moment. I felt like Portia, she was sent by production to talk to her as a way of saying, girl, you shouldn't have said that. They kind of frowned upon that. Like, she didn't say that, but it was like, let me just sit here. I'm a warning before something happens. I have to warn you, and I have to kind of tap you and give you a little light on your hand. That's how I felt. But for Kenya, for the sake of saving money, because of course y'all brought in Phaedra, but for the sake of maybe politics, But just because of the fact that it's something with production that just don't really mesh with Kenya. And y'all needed just one more thing. And I also feel like production was in Brit's back. You allowed them to put a battery in your back, and now we're here. So I guess we won't see Kenya anymore. I don't know if we're gonna see scenes with her. I don't know, but I wish she had not done it, just for the sake of, for the sake of, um, just for the sake of, like, her money in her bag, and you had two sources of income. Now you just still have that one. I just feel like, but you cannot say anything as hurtful, as like harmful as that, and then you get your husband, and it just was so harmful. I mean, it was like, that was wrong, y'all. I'm sorry. Everybody played a part. Everybody was wrong. And when I say everybody, I mean Kenya, I mean Britt, and I mean Angela. But it started with Britt and Angela, because Angela was the one who brought up the question that got this started. And Brittany got so mad that you started to say things that you knew you shouldn't have said on camera, or at all. Not on camera, but just at all. You don't threaten anybody. You don't say things. You may not have said it directly, but you knew what you was doing, and you knew you wanted her to hear those things because you got that mad. And Kenya, because she allowed this. I'm not saying Kenya didn't have a right to get mad. Kenya should have gotten pissed. I would have been pissed. But I would have found another creative way to blast her, or, like, just ignore her like she usually do with people, so it was all bad. It was all bad. So yes, Kenya, we gonna say, I'm sorry, y'all. We're gonna say Kenya was, what was that word? She was vindicated. Kenya was vindicated. But what made it look bad, optics is everything. Optics is everything. You cannot display somebody's, sexual act, even if it's just on a still pic. That's not okay. That part was not okay. And it overshadowed what you had going on, because everything was beautiful. And I would have loved to see that at the end rather than episode 5. And I hate the extensive punishment that she received regarding this. And she was the only one that was punished. But Britt get to stay, and she get to film, and she get, I didn't like that. Anyway, I hope y'all like my thoughts. If not, it's cool. Put your thoughts in the comment section below. And I will see y'all tomorrow with Love and Hip Hop. Love and Hip Hop Miami. Bye.